What is up, everybody? I am your host, Liam Murphy, the BBM2 champion, Best Ball Mania 2, here to do a solo edition of the Best Ball Mania 4 Leaderboard show, sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Each week I typically have a guest on. Unfortunately, this week's guest got COVID, so rather than asking someone else last minute, I figured it's around mid-season, a little bit after. It's a great time to do a solo edition. We can get into the nitty-gritty of best ball. Let's rip it. Yesterday, I went golfing with Justin Herzig, the winner of BBM1, and some people who work at Underdog. Shout out Cam. A BBM2 perk or BBM winner perk. You get a golf. Now, I'm an awful golfer. Literally only golfed 5 times, so it was a rough day for me on the links. Got a sunburn, but whatever. It's in the past. First thing I like to look at on the week on this show is who is defining the fantasy landscape, both in a week 9 setting and on a on the season. So any discussion of week 9 starts with rightfully CJ Stroud. Now, I'm pretty fortunate. I drafted quite a bit of CJ Stroud just because he was, for some reason, one of the cheapest quarterbacks that the market just decided, hey, you know what? The guy who went with pick 1 is going to be a 15th round pick, and the guy who went with pick 2 is going to be an 18th round pick. Didn't make any sense by the market. Clearly was wrong in the actual results world. And he popped up for a huge 42-point outing. I posted on Twitter that, me and others who played Stroud last week against the Panthers, but not this week, putting on the clown face mask because I thought it was a very viable narrative that the Panthers sold out to stop CJ Stroud, just dropping everybody into coverage because they didn't want to look bad taking Bryce Young over him. So CJ Stroud with 42 points, absolutely absurd. Did most of this in the air with passing. You do not see that a lot. So we're going to really shake up the leaderboard anytime you have a 40 burger from a late round quarterback. Dak Prescott, another good week, 28 points. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, just as we expected. Josh Dobbs, a great pick, 25 points. Josh Dobbs was barely drafted in BBM4. Someone in my Discord, link to join is below. Make sure you get into my Discord if you want to talk best ball. Someone in my Discord called him a league winner. And clearly this term league winner gets thrown around a lot. And clearly that's just wrong for Josh Dobbs. One, he was only drafted I think 180 times or so, which is kind of surprising because on DraftKings, he was regularly getting drafted in 20-round formats by the end of the draft season. I didn't draft him, but he was being drafted. And so for him to barely be drafted on Underdog is a little bit of a surprise to me. We can pull up, shout out Patrick, who made this tool that is linked in my Discord under Best Ball Resources. But Josh Dobbs, only 126 times in all of BBM4. Kind of shocking. Now, why is he not a league winner? First and foremost, he plays quarterback. And this is a point I try to hit home to people who watch my channel that it's almost impossible for a quarterback to be a quote-unquote league winner. A league winner to me is someone who's got, 30%, 40% advance rate. A guy who is literally carrying your team. And this is why you should not spend round 18 draft picks on guys like Mike White, on guys like, Huntley, whatever, any backup quarterback, because you not only need to hit the parlay of that quarterback being good, which Josh Dobbs is for fantasy, but you also need to hit the parlay of no running back, wide receiver, tight end emerging from those rounds that you need, and you need your quarterback that you hit on that's low owned to then outscore all the other quarterbacks in week 17. which is like, okay, great. You got Josh Dobbs. Maybe you get 20 fantasy points from him week 17. Pretty good. You lose to Jalen Hurts, who scores 40. You lose to Josh Allen. You lose to these guys. So stop spending late round picks on quarterbacks for uniqueness. It does not help you at all. So Joe Burrow is back on the fantasy radar. Joe Burrow is a lock to be a negative advance rate guy, pretty much. Just too much of the season he missed where he wasn't usable, but you should be excited for Joe Burrow teams you advance. Baker Mayfield, Deshaun, Tyson Bagent, Sam Howell, Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes tops off the top 12. I think it's time to discuss Mahomes and Kelsey. Are they both fantasy bust? Yeah, from an advance rate perspective, maybe. Yes. Mahomes clearly a worse pick than Allen and Hurts. Didn't take a rocket scientist to think this through in preseason either. I never drafted Mahomes, just thinking it's these guys. Now, if Mahomes and Kelsey drop 40 week 17, well, then they're great pieces to have. So guys who can hit ceilings are great picks. Guys who can't, like someone in my Discord, this sounded like copium to me, but they claimed they were drafting Najee Harris because they thought he would be a bad pick and they wanted that low advance rate guy in the playoffs. And that to me just sounds like you're warping, yes, that's an out of yours now that he's been bad, but he was not. I really doubt that anyone's being like, oh, I'm going to draft Najee because he's a bad pick in the 4th round as a volume-based guy. I don't believe that. On the season, QB1, Josh Allen, QB2, Jalen Hurts, no surprise there. Mahomes is QB3 in total points, not average, so maybe average is a little bit better here. Herbert is actually QB3 on the season. When we go by average, Mahomes is QB4, so no drop off for him. CJ Stroud, QB5 in average points per game, so the cost for the buy here. Kirk Cousins, RIP. Lamar, a little bit disappointing at QB whatever, 7. Tua, Sam Howell, Justin Fields, Richardson, Dak, Will Levis. Will Levis to me is actually like Will Levis versus like a Josh Dobbs. That's actually Will Levis picks I think were fine because I think it was predictable Tannehill would be benched. But again, you don't gain a lot with it. So moving on to running back, and we're looking at half-point PPR, but this isn't a show on Underdog. So the RB1 on the week, very low, 24 points. Actually, could be higher than that in half-point PPR. Rachaad White with 26, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre. So Jacobs and Ramondre a little bit back from the dead for both of them. Ramondre broke off a really long run. I honestly didn't know he had that in his game. But makes the sting of taking like a Ramondre over ETN a little bit less bad. Austin Eckler must have done this in garbage time. I turned that game off. It was just awful. Keaton Mitchell from the Ravens, Derrick Henry, Gus Edwards, the Bus, Alexander Madison, Aaron Jones, JT, Joe Mixon, and Najee. So pretty low scoring for running back as a whole. The wide receivers. Tank Dell, wide receiver 1, Houston Texan. Wide receiver 2, Noah Brown, Houston Texan. CeeDee Lamb, back from the, CeeDee Lamb really put himself on the map in fantasy. He was kind of a disappointment for the first couple games, only getting 4 or 5 targets. But he's really turned it on here. I think you'd be stoked to have any CeeDee Lamb teams. He's probably even going to be a decent advance rate win because he's going to really outscore guys like Devontae Adams and co. Amari Cooper, if you didn't see the touchdown Amari Cooper caught where like Deshaun Watson spikes it off the O-lineman, bounces in the air and falls in his hand, amazing. Diggs gets a touchdown late in the game to save his day, and then a 2-point conversion. Deontay, A.J. Brown doing A.J. Brown things. T. Higgins, Jahan Dotson, Olave, Nico Collins, another Houston Texan, Devonta Smith. On the season, wide receivers. Tyreek averaging nearly 21 half-point PPR. A.J. Brown, 19. Justin Jefferson, who's going to come back, but his average will go down, we assume. Steph Diggs, Keenan, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, Chase, who hurt his back. Adam Thielen, Puka Nacua, DJ Moore, who, this number is going to continue to go down. And Mike Williams, RIP. Running back on the season. Again, we'll look at averages. Achan, RB1, if we look at average points per game, very small sample, but 24. CMC, 23 point per game. Amazing. ETN, home run pick, 19. Mostert, 18. Kyron, I think McVay said today Kyron's going to be back week 12. So week 12, week 13, week 14, 3 regular season games, and then the playoffs, could still make some noise. Kamara, absolutely smashing. Montgomery, Eckler, Zach Moss, Saquon, Derrick Henry. So not a lot of surprises there. And then tight end, the talking point around tight end is always that, tight end's so dead, and whatnot. And this is why I always take swings at elite tight ends, because in a week where George Kittle scores 40 or whatever, it can win you a week, win you a tournament. But a detriment to the elite guys this year is just how many late round / more middling round tight ends have been pretty strong picks. Dalton Schultz, I would classify as a mid-round tight end, doing great. Cole Kmet is also a mid-round tight end. I think he's running a little bit hotter. Cade Otton was a late-round tight end. Taysom Hill was a late to middle. Ferguson was late. Jonnu was barely drafted. Luke Musgrave started late. Andrews was an elite. Hunter Henry was a late. Juwan Johnson was a late. Kincaid was a middle. Njoku was a middle. But if we look at the season total points and sort by averages, you got to be excited about some of these tight ends. The tight end one, Travis Kelce, only averaging 14 points per game. That's pretty bust-worthy for a first-round pick, just the opportunity cost. Games of 3, 9, 9, and 11. So just a little concerning that he can be game planned out. The defense being as good as it is maybe not good for a fantasy offense. Yes, you get more opportunities, but also you can salt away the game. But we know he still has these ceiling games in his outcome. So if you can carry a potentially low-owned Kelce to the playoffs, that's exciting. Mark Andrews, tight end 2 with 13. Hawkinson, tight end 3. Early results are Hawkinson will be definitely saved in PPR scam formats with just copy and pasting the Cardinals tight end target shares onto Hawkinson. Seem to be pretty accurate. Sam Laporta, 11 points per game. Guys that are doing, like Kincaid's past 3 averages is like, I don't know, 12, 13 points or something. So he's definitely up here. Kincaid already is at worst like top 5, top 6. But, could he come for Hawkinson? Yes. Could he come for Laporta? It will depend on who gets more touchdowns. So you got to be stoked for those guys. We lost Goddard here too. So that's enough looking at the top guys. Usually for this segment, we would look at both mine and a guess top scoring teams. We're going to do the show a little bit differently since I'm solo. We're going to run through some utilization too. But if we go into the leaderboard, and we'll start with me, and then we'll look at the top 3 teams in the contest. So top team in the contest is 1362. 1362 divided by 9 weeks of play. 151 half-point PPR points a week. Wow, we got royalty in here with us. 5th place. Congratulations, man. We'll make sure to look down there. My top team, almost 1,200. So 160 points out from first. Going to be tough. Looks like I have 4 teams currently on the top 10K leaderboard. 5,000s, 8,000, 8,000, and 10,000th place. So my top team is the same team it's been for the past couple of weeks. A Josh Allen, Bryce Young team with Breece, Swift, Mostert, Algier, Chuba, Jamal's there too. Really only 4 wide receivers you feel good about on a week-to-week basis, and Diggs, Metcalf, Davis, and Addison. Mingo, looking like a bust. DPJ, bust-worthy, but maybe life with the Lions. Shaheed's giving you some weeks, actually. Hardy, RIP, that should have been Shakir. Hawkinson and Kincaid carrying me at tight end. So just the Bills alpha. My second highest scoring team. This team wasn't even advancing last week. So this shows you how much this can change. It was obviously close to advancing, but it wasn't. And now it is in the top 10K of the leaderboard. So it went from third place in its own pod to 8,000 overall in the whole contest. But it's a Dak and Purdy team. So late round quarterback, mid round quarterback. First off, not having a Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, all those things, like so many mid round quarterbacks done for the year. Anthony Richardson. So just to navigate that landmine, you feel good, especially when you only go 2 QB. It's a hyper fragile team with Josh Jacobs, ETN, Ken Walker, Miles Sanders. Jacobs and ETN, you feel good about going forward. Walker, we'll have to see what the workload shakes down between him and Charbonnet. Miles Sanders, he's playing at least. CD Lamb, AJ Brown, Ayuk, just the nuts at wide receiver there. Michael Pittman giving you some weeks. Burks is going to do better with Will Levis in there, but we'll have to see how serious his injury was. He was carted off. Marvin Mims, whatever, spike week guy. Juju, awful pick, barely took him. Unfortunately, I did here. Mingo, pretty busty. 4 tight ends. Knox on IR. Mayer, coming along slowly. Kate Otten popped up for a week there. Henry's given some weeks. And my third team is a Josh CJ Stroud team. I have a lot of teams that have elite quarterback, and then CJ Stroud is my second, where this wasn't me being like, I know better, CJ Stroud's going to be awesome. This was me being like, I draft first-round rookie quarterbacks always, and I'm going to take the cheapest starter I can when I spend high draft capital. So this was really just me taking the gift that the market was giving me, where it decided CJ Stroud, who we knew was going to be the starter, right, is the latest drafted quarterback that gets drafted, compared to like Baker Mayfield going in. We thought, I thought at least like Baker had some chance to be benched. Tannehill had some chance to be benched. CJ Stroud, I thought, had no chance to be benched. So we like that he's going to play all the games. Just pairing a cheap quarterback with an elite. I did this a lot last year with Geno Smith. Won me some tournaments. So it's a hyper fragile team. I actually streamed this one, and I put on my Twitter earlier today. I have 3 stream teams advancing. So if you want to go back and watch those streams, if you want some more content, it's kind of fun to go back and watch some old draft streams. But you can check those out. But this team has CMC, Barkley, ETN. So really nutted at running back. Ken Walker too here for the boom bust, which, you can carry a boom bust Ken Walker when you got these studs. Wide receiver is a different story. Gabe Davis, wide receiver 1, not great, but, giving you some points. Burks, Michael Thomas, he's playing. Sutton running touchdowns. OBJ, got a touchdown. MBS is playing. Curtis Samuel has a lot of touchdowns to date, is hurt. Richie James is either still on IR or done, and Darius Slayton is playing. And then really strong at tight end again, where Kincaid, Schultz, Taysom Hill is like really nutted for mid-round tight end. So nutted at QB, nutted at running back, nutted at tight end. Just need 3 of the 9 wide receivers to give me a game. I think a lot of teams I build like this, I probably would just stop at Kincaid and Schultz and not have Taysom, and then have another 10th random wide receiver, which, hard to say what this team would like more. If the wide receiver was a hit, sure, you'd want the wide receiver. But if it was a guy like Mingo, Bateman, whatever, give me Taysom, because Taysom's killing it in fantasy, as always. Looking at the top teams in the whole contest. And guys, if you're really high up on the leaderboard in the chat, let me know. Like BKS here, says he's in 5th. We're going to look at that. If you're in the top 100 or so, we'll look at your team. Ace Viper, number 1 in the whole contest. First off, sick fucking name. Hurts and Tua, nuts at quarterback. ETN, Swift, Kamara, Ford, Mostert, home run, running back room. Tyreek Smith, Ayuk, Nico, Rondell Moore, Michael Gallup, Adam Thielen, Nelson Aguilar. Really good wide receiver room. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. We're not surprised to give you a spike in any week. And then Pitts, Conklin, K. Dotton. Enough at tight end, I guess. Number 2 in the whole contest is D. Trout with Hurts, Murray, Jimmy G, ETN, Montgomery, Dillon, Achane, Mostert. What's exciting about this team is it's going to get Montgomery back. It's going to get Achane back. Tyreek Smith, Pickens, Sutton, Zay Jones, Adam Thielen, Curtis Samuel, Michael Wilson. So a lot weaker at wideout than the other team. Hawkinson and Everett. And number 3 is Johnny Kolar, 14. Hurts and Young, ETN, Walker, Pierce, Kamara, Mitchell, Mostert, Tyreek Smith, Michael Thomas, Alan Lazard, Van Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Rashid Shaheed, and Puka Nacua, our highest scoring Puka Nacua team. And then Kittle and Conklin. We'll look at B. Sandark. He's in the chat. Hurts and Stroud, ETN, Walker, Kamara, Achane, Mostert, Ty Chandler, Jefferson, Smith, Pittman, Mike Evans, Jameson Williams, Nico, Pierce Campbell, Woods, Schultz, Komet. Good luck, brother. Hope you take it down. You definitely have enough at running back. You definitely have enough at quarterback. Tight end, you're going to need to run really good to just like a couple weeks here. And wide receiver, you're definitely weaker than some other teams. What you need is Smith, which doesn't really help you because they have him too. Jefferson, it's going to be tough for Jefferson to keep up with the other first-round picks, but you need some weeks from him. You need some much from Michael Pittman. You need some huge games from Mike Evans. And what you really fucking need is, if you can get a Jameson Williams 3-target, 125 yards, 3-touchdown game, maybe 2 of those, you got a shot. You got a shot, kid. Woods, I don't feel good about it. Campbell, I don't feel good about it. But you got 6 wide receivers who can spike for you. Only 5 of them are playing right now. So you got a shot. Good luck to you. Just looking at these comments. I'm waiting for the Zach Charbonnet breakout game. That would be nice for me too. All right. That's enough looking at the leaderboard portion. Let's jump into some. Yeah, guys, you can use the site. I'll copy and paste that here. Again, the link to join my Discord is in the YouTube description below. Please make sure you hit the like and subscribe as well. We are on the road to 3,500 subscribers. Let's look into some utilization. Shout out Fantasy Life and Dwayne for these tools. We'll just go team by team for the teams that played. We got to make sure this is showing week 9. Okay. So Trey McBride, I'm not going to talk about every player here. I'm just going to try to talk about any player that matters going forward. And then we're going to jump into some nitty gritty, trying to think through. You need 2 of them, huge. Jameson Williams can do it, man. It's not like I'm saying that he needs that from Juju Smith-Schuster, Jameson Williams can do it for him. You heard it here first. Trey McBride, the role was not as good. Kind of surprisingly, only 63% of the routes. I don't think we're going to look at much in Arizona. Yeah, let's just skip Arizona. Let's look at the rookies. Let's just look at the highly drafted rookies and start there, and then we can close out this. Seattle is one to definitely look at, both at running back and wide receiver. Jackson Smith-Njigba quietly played a decent game. 88% of the routes, 23% target per route run, 33% of the targets, ADOT of 6.4, so like a respectable. So you feel good about JSN. Is he going to pay off a 6th-round draft cost? No. But could he spike going forward? Yes. So looks like he is finally being into the fold. At running back, Ken Walker, 50% of the snaps, 62% of the rush attempts, 40% of the routes. Charbonnet, for 2nd game in a row, outsnapped Ken Walker. This game was a blowout, though. 60% of snaps, 31% of the rush attempts, 53% of the routes. So Charbonnet playing more and more. Ken Walker still going to be running the ball more. Let's go next to Minnesota. With the Josh Dobbs experience, what we got is KJ Osborne is hurt. Jordan Addison was at 98% of the routes, so fully a full-time player for Jordan Addison. Unfortunately, it happened without Kirk Cousins. 20% of the targets, 15% target per route run. So decent numbers. And this should only get better with Josh Dobbs playing. I would say that Jordan Addison can be a better version of what Hollywood Brown was with the Cardinals with Josh Dobbs, unless Justin Jefferson returns and becomes an alpha. Because Josh Dobbs is fine. He's completely serviceable. He's going to have more time to get incorporated with the offense. He has probably a better play caller. He has definitely better pass catchers, one, and more importantly, he has a much better O-line for him with Minnesota than the Cardinals, so he's going to have more time to hit him. Now, so like Addison, I would put on a Hollywood Brown level, unless Justin Jefferson returns, and then he falls off a little bit. Brandon Powell, I don't think anyone's drafting him. Tristan Jackson also plays football. Hawkinson, yeah, the copy and paste target numbers from Arizona looking pretty decent. 90% of the routes, 30% target per route run, 34% of the targets, a season high, 6.0 ADOT. So Hawkinson is really going to depend on Justin Jefferson's return, but he should be getting a lot of volume in the meantime. Chris asks, why does week 17 correlation matter again, Liam? I said this a lot in the offseason on many streams, and I'll repeat it here again. I think people misinterpreted the week 17 thing, and some people took it and ran with it. Some people only would try to alpha stack week 17 games. You should think through which games require week 17 stacks and which ones don't. For example, I said many times, Bills playing Patriots. I don't want any Patriots in a bring back for week 17. Eagles versus Cardinals. No Cardinal is a needed bring back to me. So games where a good team is playing a bad team, you don't need the bad team bring back. In a game like Cincinnati, Kansas City, even a game like that, you would think, oh, that game's going to be a shootout, so I want pieces from both sides. But what happens a lot when good teams play each other is one team dominates possession. But when you get the right games, a la Texans, Tampa, obviously bringbacks win the whole tournament for you. And as Chris is saying, it helps you be right about fewer things. It's a little bit more correlation. So I was not, honestly, a lot of my BBM portfolio and best ball portfolio is not week 17 fully game stacked. What it was, though, is me thinking through, Eagles play the Cardinals. I want a lot of Eagles on my teams. Bills play the Patriots. I want a lot of Bills on my teams. Elite teams playing bad teams. And then a little bit of a bring back here or there. So Texas, when I took CJ Stroud and Nico, maybe I sneak in a Tajay Spears thing, hoping to get a little bit of a back and forth thing. So it's not a requirement. It's not something to be overdone. Remember my Rashad Penny to Amon-Ra? That won me BBM2. So back to what we were looking at, though. We got to look next at the Chargers. Chargers played. Honestly, I didn't watch a lot of that game last night. I was busy, but Quentin Johnston was up to 95% of the routes. I had some hope that, and I still do have some hope that Quentin Johnston's going to give us some usable fantasy weeks. He's probably not being utilized to the best of his abilities, more of a yak guy. But he's got 95% of the routes, 9% target per out run, 12% of the targets. So all awful except for the routes. The routes is elite. And so the route percentage from QJ is definitely elite here. Better days ahead when you don't have to play the Jets defense. A.17, I don't know if you love that for his game. 70% of his targets were catchable. Who else do we have to look at? It went QJ, JSN, Addison. We got to look at the Ravens. Zay Flowers had a bust of a game. 82% of the routes, 3% target per run, 3% targets. Not his fault that the game environment was not competitive. But yeah, he's a little bit more of a gadgety guy than a guy like Addison and whatnot. So Zay Flowers, I think you're feeling good about him on your teams, but he's a little bit boom bust. Dalton Kincaid, another breakout game. 98% of the routes season high, 26% target per out run, and 32% of the targets season high. 10 catches in this game, just absolutely elite. And I've mentioned this before, but last year, me taking a lot of Dawson Knox versus me taking a lot of Dalton Kincaid, totally different bets. Me taking Dawson Knox is 1%, not 1%, like 5%. Hey, Titans take a while. He could develop. He could get better. But largely it was this guy plays for a good team, could catch a touchdown, fall in the end zone. Kincaid was that plus first-round draft pick, that incredibly positive signal all year from both the team, the reporters, everything. If you believe Buffalo, they said he's the best pass catcher in the class. And honestly, that might be true. Him versus JSN, Addison, those guys, he's probably going to lose the Pook and but really, really coming it on. The Lions did not play, so nothing to look at there. The Lions didn't play for their running back either. The Falcons, Arthur Smith continues to be an idiot. 60% of the snaps, 44% of the rush attempts, 55% of the routes. I will say one thing I disagree with a lot of fantasy community with is a lot of people are complaining about the Bijan usage. And to me, honestly, if I'm like the owner of the Falcons, I'm not that, if we're going to spend this much draft capital on a guy and have a team that's not good enough to win it all, I don't really mind keeping some extra miles on Bijan's legs, right? You don't want to be running Bijan into the ground on his rookie contract when your quarterbacks cannot win a Super Bowl, period. So saving him for future years, not the worst thing, honestly. Is it frustrating if you drafted a lot of him? Sure, but not the worst thing ever. Wanted to spend some time looking at some of the advanced analytics. It can be a fun way to spot breakouts and whatnot. We'll first start with the ESPN analytic numbers. Again, this is linked under my Best Ball resource Discord. And we'll go position by position, starting with tight end. These numbers are updated for this season now. We got George Kittle, tight end 1, Mark Andrews, tight end 2, Evan Ingram, tight end 3. These are overall. Jake Ferguson, 4, Kincaid, 5, Kelsey, 6. So Kelsey dropped. He was tight end 1 before this weekend, and Kincaid rose. One guy who the analytics does not like as much as maybe they should, or maybe he's just being schemed really well, is Sam Laporta, kind of surprisingly to me, who just doesn't pop at anything. Pat Kerrane has previously said that open score is what he cares about most for wide receivers and tight ends, because it's we don't have data on guys who are not targeted on a route, whether they're getting open or not. But the tight ends getting open, passes a sniff test a little bit here. Some of it has to do with your ADOT maybe. Yak also passes the sniff test, but yeah. So tight ends, pretty normal. The worst tight ends in the league: Higbee, Hunter Henry, no surprises there. Neither can get open. Chig, not a surprise. Mike Gesicki, not a surprise. Darren Waller, unfortunately, not surprised. Hayden Hurst, Dawson Knox, TJ Hawkinson. So this is maybe like he's getting a lot of volume, but maybe he's not that great. So I don't know. A little bit of a warning flag there for Hawk. K. Dotton, Granson, Zach Ertz, Komet, Laporta, Pitts. Keep in mind you have to have played a certain amount of snaps to qualify for this. So, Quentin Morris and guys like that, they've not played enough to to stick out. But if you had been looking at this ESPN analytics stuff, it would have helped you spot the Jake Ferguson breakout and the Dalton Kincaid breakout. Before both of them had strong fantasy games, both of them ranked very highly in this metric. Wide receiver. The top in the league, no real shock. AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Ayuk. DJ Moore, a little surprising to me. Keenan Allen, Nico, Adam Thielen, Nathaniel Dell, Deontay, Kendrick Bourne, surprise. Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase. So obviously the omission of Tyreek Hill is the big one. If we look at open score, Ayuk, Keenan, Dell, Lamb, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Elijah Moore, Tyreek, Jacoby Myers, Hopkins, Lockett, Mike Evans, Kirk. The worst overall and an open score. Let's see if it passes the sniff test. The worst wide receivers. Van Jefferson, passes. Juju, passes. Lazard, passes. Mingo, yes, passes. He's been awful. Sky Moore, yes, awful. Michael Gallup, yes. Demario Douglas. I heard he was not that good in college, so some of this stuff we should just take relative. For example, Demario Douglas at a 31 is at least better than Juju with the 28, and Juju with the 26 open is worse than Demario Douglas's 30. So Brandon Cooks, yes, that passes the smell test. Terrace Marshall, yes. Calvin Ridley, this is not a cap in Calvin Ridley's cap. So, Calvin Ridley, unlike the others, maybe hasn't played football last year, so maybe we'll get more in there, but a little bit of a red flag here. Alec Pierce, Tutu, Trey Palmer, Devontae Parker. The worst in open score is a very similar list. Gabe Davis doesn't get open. No surprise there. Alec Pierce, yeah. A lot of these guys, they'll play like a role, like blocking wideouts and whatnot. So we're not going to look at the running back one. No, I guess we will. Running backs, the top overall, White, CMC, Eckler, Jacobs, Warren, P. Ryan, Gibson, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Jerome Ford, Joe Mixon, Chuba Hubbard. Keep in mind this is receiving ratings. In the open score, it's got to be some like small sample wonkiness with Roshan, but he's in there. NFL Next Gen Stats. I've honestly not played around with this a lot, but there is some cool stuff here that they chart. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I'll put this in the Discord too, if you guys want to play around with this. And we'll pin that. Pin that for the people. Oh yeah, pin it. I hope you guys are ready because we're about to probably have the best football that the NFL has had in years. Just some of the games still left on the regular season schedule. Bills versus Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Dolphins. Eagles versus Chiefs, 49ers, Cowboys, Seahawks. Bengals versus Ravens, Chiefs. Chiefs versus Chargers. Obviously, they got the games against the Bills and Eagles too. Ravens versus Chargers, Jags, Dolphins, 49ers, and more. So we got a ton of great football going the rest of the way. In the chat here, let me know. I'm going to refill my water. Before we get out of here, let me know. Name the quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, and one tight end that is going to be on the winning BBM4 team, the $3 million team, not the regular season, but in week 17. Again, the quarterback on that team, one of the running backs, one of the wide receivers, one of the tight ends that are actually contributing points. They're not just like on the team, but they're the top scorers for this team. I'm going to let you guys know my answer after I get some water here, and you write yours in the chat. And then also let me know let me know any questions you have, and I'll do a little question and answer segment before we get out of here today. Answers are rolling in. Harbs has got Josh Allen, Achane, Diggs, Laporta. I like that. Let me pull up the Week 17 schedule. The games are, if you're not a dead virgin like me, Jets, Browns, Lions, Cowboys, Titans, Texans, Falcons, Bears, Dolphins, Ravens, Saints, Bucks, Pats, Bills, Cardinals, Eagles, Panthers, Jags, Raiders, Colts, Rams, Giants, 49ers, Commanders, Steelers, Seahawks, Bengals, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Packers, Vikings. Chris got Kyler, Pollard, Rondale Moore, and Andrews. That's a wild guess, Chris. I'm not with there. So Harb's got Josh Allen to Diggs against the Pats, which the Pats have shut down number one wide receivers this year, but Josh was hurt in that game and just missed Diggs for like a 50-point fantasy day. So I like that. Laporta against the Cowboys, Achane versus the Ravens. I like that answer. Paul's got Stroud against the Titans, JSN, Roshan Johnson. A little surprising there, and Laporta. Daniel has got Fields, Javonte, Kincaid, and Dell. BKS has got Carr, Olave, and Hill. I guess he's just using Taysom as both his running back and tight end. I like it. Joseph's got Hurts, CMC, Ayuk, and no tight end. Legalize it, 420. He's got Stroud, Achane, Kincaid, and Dell. CJ, Achane, Stroud, Kincaid. Just put CJ, Achane, Stroud. Confused there, Tyler. For me, the wide receiver I would choose would be either Ayuk versus the Commanders, just a smash spot for Ayuk, or DK Metcalf versus the Steelers. Another smash spot for Metcalf. If he gets his usage with this Steelers secondary, could go nuclear. Quarterback, I would chalk this out with either Josh Allen against the Patriots, Jalen Hurts versus the Cardinals. Running back, I would choose DeAndre Swift versus the Cardinals, just like a smash spot for him, which makes me like Hurts just a little bit less. And then tight end, I like Kincaid versus the Bills. The Pats give up a lot of tight end volume too, at least decently. Bijan versus the Bears is in there. ETN versus the Panthers. Chargers versus Broncos, but the Broncos have been better. Seahawks running back versus Steelers, also good. This game might be a little bit lower scoring than we would think, the Bengals Chiefs one. All right. Enough of the Week 17 discussion. Going to hang out for the next 5 minutes or so. If you have any questions about best ball or anything thought-provoking, please ask it now. Usually this show is with a guest. We'll be back with a guest. Ravens and Dolphins game could be crazy. Yeah, man, I don't know. It could be. But actually, both of those defenses, like the Dolphins defense with Jalen Ramsey back, is definitely better than it was. And again, this Ravens team's just shutting down teams, and they can play keep away. So it's just going to be hard for a lot of the Dolphins pieces to get there. What late round player will be on the winning team? Great question. So Puka's got the Giants. Kyron's got the Giants too. So Kyron in a pretty good spot versus the Giants defense, who's worse against the run. Jerome Ford has the Jets. Where you draft Achane next year? First round. I don't think he'll go in the first round, but I'd be willing if he was costed there. And if they sign Bijan or something. Obviously not, but were we underdrafting Taysom Hill? Definitely we were underdrafting Taysom Hill. I didn't draft as much as him last year after I sounded the alarm for him last year. I drafted a lot of Kincaid was part of it. I also thought it was going to just be a little bit worse for him this year with competing with Kamara and Jamal and Kendre and the other tight ends. Do you think IR stints by Achane and Kyron will make them more unique in fantasy playoffs than they were looking a few weeks ago? I mean, unquestionably, Andrew, you don't need me to tell you that. But obviously, they're not scoring points, so their advance rate's going down, which is good if you can get them to the playoffs. And you could it'd be cool, by the way, if we could go back to see certain weeks on this leaderboard. But you can just kind of chart it. Achane is down to 34%. Kyron is down to 30%. Taysom getting home, even FFPC with all the QB injuries. Great point. I mean, yeah, I got the last joke on the FFPC because I'm using Taysom's quarterback points. Thoughts on Chase injury? Not sure, man. He made it sound a little serious. I doubt it's a big long-term thing. He just landed on his back, but what is the QB start upside worth a few more shots? Brother, I'm going to need you to type this out a little bit more clearer for me so I don't know what you're asking. Can you use your influencer status to get Underdog to release the playoff pods of the upcoming thing? I'll try. I'll try for you, Pat. Think Stroud will jump to top 4 QB next year if he keeps performing well? Yeah, let's have the CJ Stroud discussion for a second here. If we just look at the top scores on the season, he, in points per game, is all the way up to QB 5. So I'd rather have these QBs for sure than CJ Stroud. Allen Hurts, Mahomes. I want to say Herbert, but without Mike Williams, he's been worse. So Herbert, Lamar, Tua. And then after that, I think it's wide open. Justin Fields. Probably Fields when he's healthy. Dak. It's hard to say. Like, he's probably like right around that Dak range. Better Goff, better Purdy. You know, and so it's not going to be impossible for him to stay up here. Or at least in this range, you know. Richardson versus Stroud, who you got? Easily Richardson for me. And I would love if the market took Stroud over him. Now, I will say to Stroud's credit, he's going to get his O-line. He's going to get better weapons next year. So, you'll take Caleb after that group. Yeah, I think rookies are going to be priced up next year, Caleb Williams and crew. But we'll see. Stroud going to be like Herbert? I'm not really sure, man. You know, his coaching staff is still running the ball way too fucking much. So you need to stop doing that. But if you notice the ESPN analytics, they really like Nico and Tank Dell. Would I like to see 20 rounds in Underdog? No. I like that there's variability. Underdog also doesn't have auto draft, so 20 rounds would literally add 2 days of drafting to my life that I don't need. Just waiting for auto drafters. Come on, Underdog. Give us that. Wish the Texans drafted JSN? Maybe not, man. Tank and Nico might just be better. All right, guys. Well, this is usually a guest show. We'll have a guest back on next week. We go about an hour usually. I'll be back at least by Friday. Maybe I'll do another stream, just kind of looking through my my teams. I was advancing 29 teams last week, and I'm advancing 20 teams this week. Let's count how many teams are within 50 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So I'm at 29 teams advancing, and I got 31 teams within 50 or less points. Didn't count this one, which is at 53. Are all these teams alive for me? Probably not. But I think I don't have a ton of the guys who have been hurt, Daniel Jones and crew. I do have a lot of Richardson, but other people are just catching up to me on injuries there. And hopefully I have some second half guys like Zach Charbonnet and crew. Like this team could advance for sure. Hawk and Kincaid, AJ Brown, Metcalf, Kirk, Michael Pittman, Jameson, Tank Dell, Hurts and Stroud. How's that not already advancing? So hopefully it's a big half. Hopefully Jamar Chase is not hurt unless he can be sneak in. The little eliminator, I'm not sure what I'm at. Weekly winner. Yeah, it'd be fun to have some more weekly winner sweats, but I'm okay with how I did it. So, all right, team, hit a like, hit a subscribe. I'll be back later this week. Join the Discord. Thank you for watching. Peace out.